I have a number of different roles as a Napa County supervisor. I've been serving on the Association of Bay Area Governments Hazardous Waste Allocation Committee since 1997, and that's the organization that's created the Green Business Program and also does a lot of the advocacy for environmental issues, which has been pushing extended producer responsibility legislation that ABAC has also supported. And our organizations here in Napa, the Upper Valley Waste Management Authority and the Napa Vallejo Waste Management Authority, which I'm also a director on both of those, have supported this legislation.
And why do you think the votes have been unanimous in support of the producer responsibility resolutions for those organizations?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. And I should also mention I am an engineer. I've worked 20 years in the environmental area. And the idea that the people who are producing these materials are also responsible for taking them back and recycling them or reintroducing them to their processes means that you consider that up in the design part of the process. You look at the kinds of materials you use, whether they're recyclable, and so you take the whole process into consideration all the way back to returning the materials, which puts the most important decision making in the people who are best able to do it.
Great. And do you believe the state has used traditionally disposal bans as a way to manage hazardous products or prevent them from getting to the landfill? Do you have any thoughts on whether those have been effective?
Well, with regard to disposal bans, they're not welcome, as we referred to it as a ban without a plan, and that was how it came down, and it created a crisis. But the benefit of that was it actually put the crisis in our control, local government, and so we were able to work to come up with solutions that make sense, that don't have a large state bureaucracy to oversee it, and I think some of the things that we've come up with are working a lot better than they might have otherwise. So.
And I know that your staff has been asking the question at the hazardous waste facility, do you think producers of products like batteries and fluorescent lamps should pay for the recycling of their own products? And the answer has been overwhelmingly 90%, over 90% have answered yes. Does that surprise you?
Well, no, it doesn't surprise me, and that's part of the whole environmental movement is really about assigning the real costs of a product to the generation of the product. A lot of things that create toxic problems, nobody was paying for it. And so the idea that we can internalize those costs so that the real cost of a product is included in the handling of it then means that you will make better decisions as you purchase those materials. So the reality is that we're spending $135,000 recycling paint at our hazardous waste collection facility this year, and with the new law coming into effect, we expect that cost to disappear. That those who are now generating that paint will take that paint back and be responsible for recycling it. So that'll take the cost out of the hands of the people who are disposing of their waste. So they've been paying for it all along. They just haven't seen it. So now those costs will be borne by the people who actually manufacture it, and therefore be more evident to the people who are buying the products.
That's great. And as an elected official, is there anything else you'd like everyone watching to know about your support for producer responsibility and the next steps, and maybe products you'd like to see be put in producer responsibility systems?
Well, we're making progress. We're seeing carpets are going to be included in that process of manufacturers being responsible for recycling them. Therefore, they're going to produce them in a way that's more recyclable. And so we're seeing that with paints. Light bulbs and disposable batteries are next on the agenda. I believe they're going to be recycled, or plan for that will be coming up this coming year. So really, you probably want to look for it everywhere. The idea that a manufacturer, when they're developing a product, would think about how this material is going to come back and get recycled and keep it out of the environment is a good thing, and that's how they should be designing materials. And so we'll look for those opportunities. You take the biggest impact items first, but then over time you just continue to look, and perhaps it'll just become the norm that people will just understand that when you produce a material you should be ready to take it back. And it just makes sense. There's some laws that sometimes don't make sense, but in this case this is one of those things that just makes sense, and over time I think people are understanding how it works. They've seen other people do it, and they will follow.